Hey, greetings friends. Dennis LaRue here, your executive and life coach with LDR Leaders Develop Relationships, and the number one relationship you develop is with yourself. And this is our weekly hashtag Steel Toes Required quote of the week, and this is episode number 78. Now, if you're new to Steel Toes, if this is your first time here, what this is all about is speakers, coaches. You'll hear speakers say something to this effect. They're about to say something that's going to make you uncomfortable. It's going to poke you. It's going to prod you. It's going to challenge your thinking. And they'll say, I'm about to step on your toes. I heard it many times. What's going on, Chuck? And so that's how I started this. Found some quotes that impacted me over the years, some things that have just stepped on my toes and have helped me to grow, and I wanted to share those with you. And so I started this 78 episodes ago, sharing quotes that have impacted me, called Steel Toes. Now, it's also, there are doors and barriers and obstacles in your week and challenges you go through. And sometimes you need a pair of steel toes to knock those doors down. So Steel Toes also is to inspire, to motivate, to get you going, starting your week, kicking down the doors to achieve the goals, dreams, and desires you need to achieve. What's going on, wingman? Good to see you, Ed Reed. So that's the whole premise behind the hashtag Steel Toes Required quote of the week. And this week's quote comes from a book that really impacted me greatly when I read it. And I read it at the same time. If you'll notice, some of the quotes, those of you that have been on here, I've mentioned quotes from a book by John Maxwell called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. As a matter of fact, I don't have it handy on my desk, but that's okay. In that book, John quotes Darren Hardy in his book, The Compound Effect, which is where my quote tonight comes from. There it is. I'm trying to bring it across. The Compound Effect. So you can see my tabs. It's tabbed out. I've read this many times. And so my quote comes from Darren Hardy's book. And for those of you that have a copy of the book and read it, it comes from page 35. Here's his quote. The biggest difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people are willing to do what unsuccessful people are not. Let that sink in for a moment. That was a long one. I'll read it again. The biggest difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people are willing to do what unsuccessful people are not. That's Darren Hardy from The Compound Effect. Now I want you to think about this for a moment. Successful versus unsuccessful. Now, many of you know I'm retired Air Force, spent 23 years in the United States Air Force, and this particular lesson, this quote, is a lesson I learned very early in my military career. In fact, I remember several of my supervisors throughout my career saying almost exactly what Darren Hardy said. They would tell me, hey, if you want to promote up the ranks, if you want to set yourself apart and get those jobs within your career field, or to get those temporary duty assignment locations you're looking to do, then you've got to be willing to do things that everybody else is not willing to do. You've got to stand out. Separate yourself from the pack. Separate yourself from the herd. You may all be the same rank, but if you're doing things that everybody else doesn't want to do, you stand out. That was some of the lessons I received in my military career. And for my veterans that are out there, tell me, is that what you heard during your career? Because that's what I heard during mine. And so, what does that look like? Here are some ways that I could tell. that I was doing something, that this was an opportunity to do something nobody else wanted to do. First off, for my military folks, you may have heard or read an email that started with this phrase: I have an opportunity for you to excel. I have an opportunity for you to excel. Translation, nobody wants to do this, and I'm looking for a volunteer. Hey, Melanie, how are you? That was a translation military career. Here was another one. When somebody said these words, and you've probably heard them out there, whether it's in the civilian sector or military sector, you've heard these words. That's not my job. Or, that's not in my PD position description. Or you're in a staff meeting and you hear, I need a volunteer. And at that point, it's like going back to elementary school or high school and you didn't study or do your homework. And when the teacher asks for, I need somebody to answer the following, you're hiding your head behind the person in front of you, hoping you're not seen and you're called upon. Those are examples of the feeling that people get when they don't want to do something, and it's an opportunity for you to step up and do something. To do something different, to be successful. Now, not everything that I did, that I volunteered for, led to successful moments. I mean, picking up cigarette butts around the building, not exactly an opportunity to excel, if you know what I mean. But doing those continually, after a while, what I noticed in my career was this. When those details came up and they knew I volunteered for them, they didn't put me in them. But when a better opportunity came, they always put me in those because I was willing to do what other people weren't willing to do. Here's another example real quick I'll share with you towards the end of my career. Now, I was at a certain rank where I had the privilege of not having to do certain details anymore. I mean, by virtue of my rank, my position, and where I was at in the organization, I didn't have to do them. But an opportunity came up, and I volunteered for a promotion ceremony. Now, promotion ceremonies happen all the time in the military. And as a matter of fact, they happen every month. And so you're always going to them. But this was a different one. This was a 4-star general, the commander of the base, who was getting promoted. And I volunteered right away. And people looked at me like, you don't have to do that. I said, I know, but I want to do it. I want to do this. I want to be there. And so 4-star generals don't get promoted very often. You don't see a promotion to a 4-star general very often. As a matter of fact, it's the only one that I saw in my career. And it was the last one I went to. Because the Air Force Chief of Staff, the senior ranking officer, was also there in the room, was going to be there. And if those senior military leaders are going to be in the city, you guess who else is going to be there? Senior leaders from the city are going to be invited to be a part of it. And so I volunteered. And guess what I did that day? I wasn't in charge of a detail. I wasn't in charge of people. I was holding open a door into the reception area for all of these distinguished visitors and guests to come in and out all day long. That's right. I was holding a door open. Well, when the ceremony ended and they moved to the reception area, not everybody was invited to the reception, but guess who got an invite? The door openers got an invite to that reception. So I got to be in the room with the 4-star general and greet and thank him and be in that room with him and his guests. And guess who one of his guests was that day? Gary Sinise, Lieutenant Dan, was in the room. That's right, Lieutenant Dan was in the room. And so I got to spend a few minutes talking to him and be around in a group and listen to him talk. And what a great guy. I mean, talk about being around a successful person. He's a successful entertainer, a successful actor, a humanitarian, a staunch supporter of the military, and to be there and talk to him. And all because I was willing to do what other people weren't willing to do. That's a successful moment for me. Now, putting all of that aside from a story side from it, think of this. In the comments, I want you to put in the comments now. We got to look at what successful people do. So in the comments below, what I'd like for you to do is post something that successful people do that unsuccessful people don't. Do that in the comments, please. And as you're doing that, I want to share with you 4 things to help you differentiate between a successful person and an unsuccessful one besides what they do. The first thing is you need to understand what your definition of success is. So number 1, define success for you. Your definition of success is not the same as my definition of success. For some people, success is money. For others, it's position and power. For others, it's strictly relationships. Stephen, there it is. Put a plan in action. That's what I'm talking about. That's good. Turn off the noise. I love this. Keep them coming. Those are excellent. Successful people listen. They volunteer. Listen to these things. These are perfect. All of those are exceptional. So the number one thing that you got to do is define success for you. What does success look like for you? Got to define it. I'm working on mine. As a matter of fact, mine is on an index card right here, and I'm not showing you it yet because I haven't finished it yet. I'm almost there. Almost there. I'm tweaking it now, and when it's done, I'll share it with you. And read daily commitment and dedication to performing beyond average. Oh, yes. You said the A word. You said a bad word. Average. I'm going to say a bad word too. Mediocre. There's another one. As a matter of fact, I was talking to Chuck Parker this week, and we're talking about putting a jar together, like a swear jar. But this swear jar is for saying the word average and mediocre. It's the swear jar for successful people. So number one, define success for you. Number two, once you've got your definition for success, now you need to identify people who meet or exceed your definition of success. Eric, what's up, brother? The $1 in the average jar. That's right. That's right, Chuck. So number two is, once you've defined success for you, now you need to find people who meet that definition of success. Who is living out that definition of success? Why? Why is that important? Because, number three, you need to study what those successful people are doing. And some of you are putting in the comments right now things that successful people do. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Living above average, volunteering for things, being involved, having a plan that they follow. All kinds of great actions, but you want to study people who are successful. You've got your definition. You've got people who are meeting that definition of success to you. Now you want to study them. Why? Because number four, you want to do what they do. There it is. That's right, Scott. What else do successful people do? They don't give up. They're persistent. Because they know what their definition of success is, they've planned, they're following the plan, and they persist until they achieve what they plan. Unsuccessful people, first obstacle, they give up. Or if they're maybe a little more persistent, they get to the second obstacle, then they give up. Successful people don't give up. Unsuccessful people quit. They give up. So there it is, my friends. There it is. The biggest difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people do and are willing to do what unsuccessful people are not. That's Darren Hardy. And notice the word willing. That's critical. That's critical to success, being a successful person. It's a will. It's not just action, but it's a willingness to act. You're in alignment. So you've got your definition, you've got the people, you've got this, you're studying, you're doing, and you're in alignment with that success. This book, The Compound Effect, was a huge, huge influence on me when I read it. I've read it many times. And this definition, this quote about successful people is basic. It really is, isn't it? I mean, think about it. Do what successful people do, and because unsuccessful people won't do it. Norma, how are you? I'm going to be giving you a call this week. So, success. What's your definition? Get it down. Number two, again, is find people based on your definition of success that meet that definition, and then study them. Why? So you can do what they do, and so you can achieve the success that you've defined for yourself. And there it is, friends. That's the hashtag steeltoesrequired quote of the week. And continue. Now, I know those of you that are just jumping on, a question I asked was, name something that successful people do that unsuccessful people don't. Put it in the comments and throw it out there. As we finish, I'll interact with them. We'll throw some more out there. Now, our blog, I've finished the blog. It's right now going through some editing processes. Jamie will take care of that, and that will be posted first thing in the morning. And one last thing I want to add. These videos, I'm now moving over to YouTube. I have a YouTube page. So if you haven't been on YouTube, look me up, Dennis LaRue Jr., and you will see Steel Toes on there. And also, for those of you that follow LaRue on the Street, I am moving some of those over there as well. So I'd love for you to go over there on YouTube, like those, subscribe, and comment over there as well. Appreciate all that you do. And as we wrap this to a close, bring this up, wrap it in a bow, it's time once again for the blessing. I pray the blessing of bread that you know no hunger. I pray the blessing of salt, that your life would be full of flavor and that you would be adding flavor and value to other people's lives. I pray the blessing of wine, that joy and prosperity would be yours and that the love of God would be your portion this day and forevermore. Friends, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the hashtag steeltoesrequired quote of the week, number 78. I appreciate you. I'm honored that you take time out of your day to watch this, to get encouragement. And if this adds tremendous value to you, would you do me a favor? Would you like and share this with your network? Inspire them, motivate them, and allow them to experience what you experience every week now for 78 episodes. I appreciate you. Now go out there and get your steel toes on. Go kick down the doors, kick down the obstacles and barriers that are in your path, and go reach the levels of success that you've defined, that you desire, and go take it. As my friend Chip says, go get it. Go get it. All right, friends, take care. Have a great week, and we'll see you during the week, LaRue on the Street, right here, Facebook Live. And also, next Sunday night, same time, we'll be right here with the hashtag SteelToesRequired quote of the week. This is Dennis LaRue, your executive and life coach with LDR. Leaders develop relationships. Take care. Good night. Goodbye, everybody.